Welcome back to the Ag Creators Podcast. Today we've got Renato from Spraytec joining us. Renato's story is a unique one because he didn't grow up in agriculture. He grew up in the city and now he's built a career in the farming industry. We talk about how that happened, what he's learned working in ag, and the perspective he's gained from seeing agriculture in both Brazil and the U.S. Let's hop into it.
So when you came over to Iowa, did you know much about Spraytec coming from Brazil, or was it all new to you when you came to Iowa?
When I started working with Spraytec, so I started in 2018, so about 8 years ago, and I was going to be 8 years now in May. I did not have a prior experience with the company. We were in different states, so when coming into Spraytec, it was kind of a new thing to me. But got to know a lot about the company, about the culture, and definitely. It was a good match in terms of, Spraytec itself and also getting into the agricultural work.
When you talk about coming from a city, moving from a different country into the U.S., there's a lot of changing there, a lot of different things happening. Can you talk about that a little bit from the culture? There's got to be a lot of differences coming from all the way down in Brazil up to the U.S. and then moving from city into a different agricultural industry.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, like you said, it was a double move, two changes. One, obviously the culture, from, moving from, lived in Brazil for 19 years and then moving on to the U.S., kind of, living here full time. I always say I've never seen snow before. So the first time I saw snow, it was a unique experience to me. And then, just getting used to the culture and everything, but also very, very welcoming. Community, people are always very, very nice, very receptive, and that definitely made the process a lot easier. And then also, switching from, kind of the, city to agriculture, but at the same time, very, I think the ag community in general is very, welcoming and made that transition a lot easier. And just getting to know that, I think, you guys are aware, there are some kind of perceptions or people think certain things about agriculture, or they just hear one person talking about it, but they don't really have their real life experiences. They don't really know everything that surrounds agriculture. And when you come in and you learn those things and you start to see what farmers are going through every day and some of the things that they're doing, and you really get to see the other point. I've definitely did I didn't know a lot about it, and what I knew, it was probably had more of a negative connotation in a way, but when I came in and started to learn, it really changed my eyes on agriculture and farming, and I think that made me kind of fall in love with the industry in a way.
What were the biggest differences that you saw coming from Brazil? Obviously, you didn't grow up in ag, but coming from Brazil to the States, were there a lot of big differences in terms of ag, and not just the culture, but ag?
Yeah, and the interesting thing about Spraytec, we are in Brazil. The company started in Argentina, then moved on to Brazil, and we're also now in 40 different countries. So we get to interact with a lot of people. And one thing we always say, and Diego, our owner, our CEO, he always talks about it. He says, we are in different countries, we're doing different things, with languages, soil types and all that. But at the end of the day, he says that the essence, the core of the farmer, that's the same. Everybody's trying to do the same thing, grow a crop, be sustainable, be profitable. So that, there are a lot of differences and everything, but at the same time, when you get to know, the farmer and the industry in general, there's a lot of similarities, and kind of everybody comes together as one, or the farmer.
That's what I think was super cool about the Brazil trip, was seeing obviously the languages are different, the culture was different, the food was different, but they're all doing the same thing. They're all cutting beans. They're all, they all have the same goal.
Yeah. And I do, one thing that I always, when we talk to our customers here, I like to bring it up is in South America, Brazil, Argentina, any countries, they're looking at the U.S. It's like the U.S. is a reference in terms of, the technology, crops, what they're doing, it's like all these different countries are looking into what's the American farmer doing? They're looking, they're interested, they're trying to get information. They look at, reports and prices and everything. So they're always very interested to learn about, American agriculture and what, guys are doing here. And then when they come into, we go visit, farmers and customers of ours and everything, they ask a lot of questions, and they are very interested in learning about what the American farmer is doing.
You mentioned some misconceptions that you had before going into ag industry, and I know Jack had the same thing from when he started working in the ag industry. What are some of those things that you kind of noticed beforehand where it kind of changed your perspective after you kind of got into it and understood more what farmers are actually doing?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's just the importance of the agriculture industry, right? We're talking about the production, we're talking about food, we're talking about energy. If you were to, let's say, eliminate the ag industry, I mean, people would, everybody would, suffer the consequences. So I think a lot of people don't realize, first of all, the importance of, yes, you're looking at the farms and everything, you're seeing that on a small scale, but when you combine everything and see what those people are responsible for in many ways that directly affect them, that is huge. That's the first thing. And it's like your food, you pick up your food at the grocery store, but there's a lot of steps, to get to the shelf. And I think like people not realizing that is, it's something really simple when you think about it, but at the same time, it's like, you're, the general public or whatever, they're not really looking at those things. And when you see it and you look at all the steps and the hard work and the steps that took to get to that shelf or to get to the energy source or whatever it is, that's the first thing. And then I think when it comes to, we're talking about, spraying and, the chemicals and things like that, there's a lot of misconceptions in that, but it is, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of things that are not necessarily true. And then when you actually look at, what the farmer is doing and everything, and some of the things, the steps that they have to take in order to grow a crop, to be sustainable, be profitable, to get a crop at the end of the season, a lot of those steps are necessary in order to make that happen. And
Is there that big of a disconnect? Here, obviously, there's a disconnect. In Brazil, is there a big disconnect as well? It's pretty similar.
the same. And you look at, kind of the, city people looking at the farmers and then, looking at it is exactly the same. It's just in a different language.
Yeah. When you came here, and you started learning about, American agriculture, is there stuff that we do here necessarily that, we might do it better versus in Brazil, they might do something better? Was there a lot of differences in terms of we do things a different way and then in Brazil they do things better per se?
I don't like to say better or worse because I have to keep both sides happy, right? So I have to,
Yeah.
but no, all jokes aside, I think it's just different, right? I mean, when we look at, like, for example, disease pressure, that's a big thing. We look at Brazil. I mean, you were down there. People are spraying, they're doing a pre, a post, and then 4 or 5 fungicide and insecticide applications. Disease pressure is a lot higher. If you don't, take the necessary steps, I mean, at the end of the season, you're not going to grow a crop. So I think South America has more challenges in terms of disease pressure and also infrastructure. I think the U.S. is more ready in that sense. We're talking like grain storage, transportation, the roads. I mean, you went through some of the roads down there. Their roads, like some, trucks can get into. I think the U.S. is more prepared in that way. But there are also, some things that, Brazilian or Argentina or South American farmers are looking at the U.S. and there's a lot of there's a level of respect for the crops, the yields that you guys are looking, the challenges that you have in adapting to it. But I think Brazil is just, the disease pressure is a big thing, obviously. But even here in the U.S., there's some different, we're looking at, South Dakota or North Dakota compared to, Alabama or Tennessee. There's going to be a big difference in that the U.S. is so big that you get to see a little bit of everything. Brazil is a newer country, I would say, in terms of agriculture. So there had to be a lot of, like soil corrections, kind of like, develop, open up new farm areas, and that's still happening. I think in the U.S. that is just more established. In Brazil, you're probably still going to see an increase on the tillable acres area, and that's just going to keep growing every year.
Talking about misconceptions, one of the big ones is fertilizer. Obviously, as farmers, we don't want to spend any more money than we need to, but also we're trying to get the best crop that we can and the healthiest crop that we can. So talk about how you see farmers utilizing specifically like micros and just fertility in general and how important that actually is for the industry.
Absolutely. I think, and we look at a moment like now with, the prices and, there's kind of a crisis in that way. Or say with the crisis, kind of comes an opportunity. You just have to do something different. We, looking at South America, but even, here in the U.S., I think that kind of, the market is global, right? So Brazilian farmers are suffering the consequences. American farmers are suffering the consequences of, with prices and, lack of supply. So I think working with, what we're positioning our products is kind of, combining, yes, you have your, your fertility and you're working with that, but trying to look at, the micronutrients, the stress mitigator products, trying to bring these, different solutions. It's like what we're not trying to change what a farmer is doing. You're going to go in for a certain application. Hey, we have this product with a certain nutrient that would really help with that. Or is it a specific, disease or a problem? One of the biggest things we try and do is like listen to, problems that a farmer is going through in terms of, disease pressure or micronutrients or, whatever it is, and then trying to position a product that can help with that. Diego started the company by doing that. The first product he developed, farmers down there were having issues with 2,4-D drift, and he's like, oh, here's a product for that. And then started, kind of creating what Fulltech is today. The problem and solution is something that we really try and do. So like right now, problem is, fertilizer. What sort of products can we position to help with this problem? And and as the season goes, trying to adapt to what the farmer is doing and then adding value to their operation.
So when you talk about Spraytec, y'all started in Brazil. What is the process for bringing a product to the States? I'm guessing it's very complicated, or is it easy, or easier?
It's not easy, but it's also, I feel like it's maybe sounds more complicated than it is. The bringing the product itself part is easy. The hard part is, you come in, you're a new company with a new product, people don't really know about it. You have to work on building that, and that doesn't happen, overnight. We've been here for probably about 10 years now, and I would say probably the last 4 or 5 years is when we really kind of like, so it took some time to get there. We used to bring all the products from a manufacturing facility in Brazil that I had the chance to visit. And obviously on a smaller scale, and as we grew, it got to the point where it was getting to be a lot, so we started manufacturing it here. Now we got to the point where we're even like we're building a new manufacturing facility because the demand has increased. But the product part itself, there is obviously steps and legal things that you have to do, but the biggest challenge is you stop by and talk to a farmer or a retailer, and you go say, oh, we're Spraytec, and obviously they hadn't heard about it before. So it takes some time to build that brand, doing trials, doing research with universities, research agencies, working with the farmers to grow our brand. And I think we have done that, and we still have, a long ways to go, but that's definitely the biggest challenge. You ask Diego, what's the hardest country that, the most difficult one to get into? He said the United States. It is a very, loyal market in a way. You have farmers are looking at the brand, the quality. Is not all about price. It's about the quality of the product, the reputation, and what you're bringing to them. So they're more careful when they're saying yes to a product. So building that, it just takes some time. And like I said, I think we have definitely improved in that way, but we still have a long ways to go, and we're looking forward to keep going.
Yeah, one of the cool things about Spraytec now is that you're moving the headquarters into Iowa, into the U.S., which is really exciting.
Yeah.
But also coming from a different country or working with other countries also brings other benefits too. Like down in Brazil, you pretty much have a growing season all the time, right? So you're working on testing products in other places too, so then they can work here for us as U.S. farmers.
Absolutely, yeah. We, like you said, we get the chance to, we could try the product, pretty much twice even before we bring it in here. Obviously, we like to do local trials because there's some things that are going to change. But having the opportunity, we might be, it's 0 degrees over here, and we're just kind of, enduring the cold weather, and they're out there spraying. And and we went in February, it was a little bit cold over here, and you have guys like combining and then planting and everything. So it really, it doesn't really stop over there. And it's cool to, see that and kind of like how the product is performing, and a lot of, we exchange a lot of information. We look at our team. We have a group called like Spraytec around the world. We have like 250 people that are out in the field, and then they're sending pictures and videos and stuff. So like kind of bringing everyone together where they can see what others are doing. I think it's a unique experience, and we try and encourage that a lot within our company.
Yeah, we're always trying to test things on our farm too, and that's what we recommend to any farmer that we're working with as well. But it does help getting that outside perspective and seeing how it can work in different areas and different places too, and getting a lot more. Is this quality? Is it going to stay up? Is it going to perform in all kinds of different environments? So it's pretty cool that in that way.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what we talked about. Jack said like, oh, is it easy to bring the product? I mean, that, like I said, the testing and the trial, and then you have to, you let's say you do a side by side with a farmer, then you have to wait, then they're gonna plant, they're gonna harvest, and then they're gonna see the results, and then they're gonna use it next year. So that all, it's a 1 year process pretty much minimum. Sometimes testing for 2 years or 3 years, see how it works. So that adds a lot of time to, actually get to convert them into a customer. Sometimes that could take years.
So y'all have a lot of products, and when I'm filming, a lot of the guys that I work with will, either put trials out, or it might just be part of their grower standard practice. What is your favorite Spraytec product that y'all have developed?
I'm gonna have to say Full-Tech Cube. That one, I think it's like the Full-Tech Adjuvant. Obviously, that's our flagship product, the one that started the company, and it'll be like our base product. But I think the Cube, when you're looking at, it's full, has some of the components of the Full-Tech in it, but we're bringing in the micronutrients, the amino acids, the stress mitigation. So when you put that product in, it could be, with a fungicide, or if you're just putting that product on its own for the nutritional part of it, that product, I think it's around the world, we've seen really significant response with it. Moving away a little bit from the adjuvant, I think the Cube I think it's probably our next, our number 2 product. It's easy to position with that, with the timing of the product, and I think there's a lot of potential there for us with Cube. You might have heard it in the last few weeks here with the guys. Maybe not yet, because it's more of a late season application product, but that's definitely a product that I'm excited about.
There were some guys that were putting it out on wheat, and so that's what we film. I don't know, every time we do videos, it seems like, there's Spraytec products going in the tank. And so it's always cool to see what video or what products and what they do. I didn't grow up in the ag industry. And so like coming into the ag industry, I didn't know how in depth they looked at plant health and and all those different aspects. And so it's super cool to see like we're doing this to help. Like most people don't realize how in depth farmers are, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's something that people are starting to pay more attention to. It's like that plant health and, the micronutrients, and kind of, protecting the plant in a way, mitigating, it's like you're going to plant a crop, and the plant's going to go through a lot of stress throughout the season. So it's like, what steps can we do to make it like less impact or less harmful to the plant? And I think like, the idea with our product is more of that, like, stimulating the plant in a way that it would lower some of the impacts that, with weather, with disease, with whatever it is, but trying to protect the plant so when it gets to the end of the season, you can have a good yield. That's the end goal, right, at the end of the day.
So we talked about how Spraytec is really a global company, but now that it's into the U.S., but how do you take all these different countries, or all these different team members that are with you, to be able to bring it to just one single farmer, localized, and bringing it from this huge scale down to just one farmer and helping it work on their farm?
I think we're always going to have a regional aspect. I mean, we're always, we can have like a pretty good idea and what a way to position the product, but at the end of the day, even like within the U.S., we're going to position different. We're talking about, let's say, we're looking at a program for, even sometimes it could be even within the same state, but for like, I'll use, South Dakota or North Dakota compared to, Alabama or Tennessee. It is going to be different. So it's like identifying, having the background of the product, kind of like overall, hey, this product has worked, like Cube has worked really well all over the world, but there could be a specific situation where we can position a different product based on, the disease that they're trying to go after, or the nutrients, or whatever it is. So I think we're always going to have, it's like, we can have a pretty good base and core as a company, like worldwide, and have a pretty good idea, but doing the testing on a local level that's always going to be important, and we're going to continue to push that.
Talking about this local data and new things, is there anything new that's coming from Spraytec, or what's the goal going forward? Because obviously Jack had mentioned there is a lot of different products that you have currently, but what's the goal moving forward on either new products or just showcasing the products that you already have? What's the plan there?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is we try to adapt and provide solutions with what the farmer is doing and ways that we can go in and position a certain product based on what they're doing. We have a couple new products. We have our Boron Max. It's a product that's been used for a while. Now we have a version of the Boron Max, which is Boron Sweet Max, that has some sugar in it. So rather than just being boron, as there's boron and sugar, that's a product that we're excited about here for this year. And then our full tech drone, I think, this year, kind of first full season with it. Full tech adjuvant's kind of your go-to for all the applications, but this one's more specifically for a drone application. With that really low water volume, there's some things that that product has performed really well. So we brought that as an option to guys that are doing more of the aerial or the drone application. And yeah, just kind of continue to trial the products. We're getting into different regions now. We're in the Pacific Northwest, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, California. I mean, we were talking yesterday about trial for blueberries. We've never done a trial for blueberries here in the U.S. So looking at those everything's like potatoes, specialty crops. So I think our core was that corn and soybeans and wheat, and then started getting into the South with peanuts and rice and cotton, and now kind of expanding onto the to that Pacific Northwest with those many different crops. But that's where I think our global part helped, because we've done some trials in South America with with fruits and vegetables, and like sugarcane, citrus. So we know the product has the ability to work for different crops. It's just kind of like I said, trying it out, do their own trials to identify what works best. So when we're talking to the grower, we can give them a confident recommendation of what we believe is going to work best for them.
Renato, so we kind of talked about the whole kind of story, you coming to the U.S., talking about Brazil versus U.S., talking about what Spraytec's doing and looking forward. So we really appreciate you talking about all that stuff. It's really interesting for us coming from U.S., and me and Jack have both complete opposite perspectives from where we came from too. And so it's just kind of interesting to see. And it's cool that Jack got to go to Brazil too, because then he gets firsthand look on kind of some of these differences you saw.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity. I think it's like, we all have different experiences, but at the end of the day, we talked about this in the beginning, it's kind of coming together at one sharing experiences. I think we all have a lot to learn from one another, the farmers, the people, everyone that is involved in the ag industry. And I think if we facilitate that and keep doing that, everyone just has to benefit from it, and we can keep making progress as one.
Well, we appreciate you coming on. I think it was really cool obviously it was cool to see, where y'all, started, and see, the process in Brazil, and then getting to talk about it. I think it was super cool. And so, we appreciate you taking the time to come on. And obviously you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to a podcast. And so stay tuned for the next episode.